Chris Buck, welcome to 1+1.
Thank you.
You are the director of a film that someone like me, having a little child, has heard about for years now. But I wonder, there are 3 people in this room who did not know about Frozen, and I'm sure you've been in a situation where you must have sat on a plane next to someone and perhaps they said, "What do you do?" What do you say to people when they ask you what you do?
Well, first off, I say that I'm an animation director and I work for Disney. And it's sort of interesting because I can get the response of either, I could leave it there. I could say that's it. And then they would say, "Well, what have you done?" And I could say a few, and then I would say Frozen. And I can either get the response of, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh, I love it, my kids, I love it." Or I can get the other response of, "Oh, you're the one." So you're the one that I get to hear these songs over and over and over. So it's kind of a mixed bag a little bit, you know. I mean, they love it, and they love it, their kids love it, but they tend to have heard or seen it quite a few times. So I get both. I get both responses.
You were born in Kansas.
Yes.
You are the 4th of 6 kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What's it like to grow up in Kansas? Because I always think of the Wizard of Oz when I hear of Kansas.
We have tornadoes. I do remember tornado warnings, and actually tornadoes, and we'd have to go down to the basement to stay safe. I remember running home from school when there was a tornado warning. So we do have that, just like Wizard of Oz. And I grew up a little bit in Kansas, and then I moved in places too. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado, and then eventually California. But it was a good place to kind of grow up in a nice kind of safe area.
Were you always good at art when you were a kid?
I don't know if I was always good, but I always loved drawing. I was doing it from as long as I can remember. And I loved copying the comic strips. I loved copying from Peanuts, Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and a bunch of others. There was this magazine in the U.S. called Mad Magazine, and I would copy the illustrators from there, and I just loved doing that. So I was constantly drawing and getting better as I went, but it was just a passion of mine and loving cartoons.
You also really loved the animated film Pinocchio,
Yes.
It came out quite a few years before you were born. What attracted you to that film?
Well, I don't think I had a choice, you know. So I was so young that it was just a movie that I was taken to. So my parents took me to that, and I just fell in love with it. I'd never seen anything like that. It was on a big screen. Pinocchio was this character that I related to, just this fun little kid. But I love the whole story. I love the whole journey. All the scares and all the fun and all the music. I remember Monstro the whale, who, you know, he scared me to death on a big screen. It's really quite frightening. But everything came out okay in the end. I'd been taken on this fantastic sort of roller coaster of emotions, but it was fine at the end, and it was a happy ending. So I think that made a big impression on me, and I sort of look back on that day as the day that I fell in love with animation.
So from seeing Pinocchio, being really inspired by Pinocchio, from enjoying cartooning, what leap was there before you actually joined the California Institute of the Arts and actually was on your way to becoming an animator?
Animation was a passion, and I guess I just wanted to bring those characters to life. I wanted to bring my own characters to life, but I'd never animated in high school. So all I knew is that I liked Disney animation, but I'd never actually done it. And so I just tried. I set my portfolio in to see if I could be accepted. And luckily they said yes, but I still didn't know if I was going to stick with it. I thought, if I don't really like animation in the first 6 months, I'll leave. And I figured if this isn't for me, then I've got to move on. And I was thinking I'll do marine biology. That was another sort of interest of mine, so I'll move on to that. And I got hooked right away in school. I went, oh my gosh.
I remember a long time ago, I saw this film I think it was about how Disney made animation. And I remember somebody drew a stick figure on a pad of paper and then flipped through the paper so that the stick figure started to move.
Right.
For those of us who aren't exactly sure what animation is, did I pretty much hit the nail on the head, or is it something different?
Well, no, I mean, you did. I mean, it's drawing by drawing. You know, it's 24 drawings a second, or 24 frames per second. It can be a very slow process of trying to move your character and bring them to life. That's just the technical end of it, but the real kind of artistic end of it comes from bringing a character to life. So we call the hand-drawn animators actors with pencils, and of course today the CG animators are actors with a mouse. But it's all about understanding acting and the timing and comedy and drama, how to get the most out of just a subtle emotion on the face, and understanding all of that. And so it really is, an animator is a very complex kind of person that it looks simple when it's done, either on hand-drawn or CG, but there's a lot that goes on into it.
So when you were studying animation, how did you get chosen to join Disney?
Well, we do films at CalArts, and at the end of the year there's always a show, they call it the Producer's Show. And at that point, Disney artists came up. The guys who were working at Disney came up and saw our films. And I guess they liked what they saw, what my film was. And
what was it?
It was about, it was a tennis player. I played tennis in high school, so they always say, draw what you know. So I knew tennis very well, and it was a female tennis player with her mother, who is this, crazed sort of stage mother manager. And at the end, after we showed our films, Lillian Disney was in the audience. This is Walt's widow. And Lillian came up to me and said how much she enjoyed my movie. And I was just floored. I didn't even know she was there. And let alone here comes, someone who is connected to Walt so closely, and then saying she liked my movie. So it really was an amazing sort of moment for me.
I guess if you hadn't directed Frozen, you might have described your career before as one that had some peaks and also some troughs. I remember hearing that you animated, I think it was a tree, in Pocahontas.
Right.
And then you did Surf's Up, and then you directed, I think it was a series about families.
Right.
Where did you learn the craft of directing?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm still learning it, basically. I don't think I've ever quite gotten there, but I think it just came from, I did a lot of different things in my career. I started as an animator. Also, I've done character designs, I've done storyboarding, so I've worked in story. So I've done a lot of these different skills, and that started to groom me unknowingly for directing. So I understood a lot of the process of how it was done. But certainly my first directing gig, there are a lot of things I did wrong. And one of the main things that I did wrong was that I didn't say no. I didn't say no to anyone. I took everyone's ideas in, and it just became this big mushy thing. It didn't have a vision. Luckily, I feel like I've still got a lot to learn.
When you came to propose the idea of Frozen, which was broadly based on Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen, it's something like 150, 175 years old now, that story.
Yeah.
When you came to pitch it in 2008, I think it was originally, what was it about the story that you couldn't let go of?
Let it go. First off, I loved the landscape. I loved the environment. It was something that I'd never done a big picture with that sort of scope, and ice and snow and adventure. So for me, that was exciting. But then it came down to the characters. It came down to, there were a few things. One was there's a character, Gerda, in there in the original, and she's basically Anna in this movie. And Gerda's all about love. And Gerda's all about going to save her friend. It's a little boy. It's a younger story. So I love that, but really it was about Elsa. And she's not named that in the book, like I said. She's just a snow queen, and she's a villain.
She's a villain.
She's a villain the whole way through the book. So our concept originally was she was going to be a villain, but there was going to be a redemption story to it. So there was going to be something very good about her at the end.
I guess we should explain for the few people who might not know the plot. So Elsa and Anna are sisters, they're princesses, but Elsa has this power of turning things into ice, and you better tell me.
Well, yeah, so it is about Anna and Elsa being sisters, and Elsa has these magical powers, and she can create snow and ice. And at first, it's a wonderful thing, and then she actually hurts Anna with her powers, and then that's when Elsa and her parents decide Elsa's a little bit dangerous, so we got to keep her away from Anna. They get
separated.
So they get separated for most of the movie. They're separate, and yet you're hoping for these two to get back together.
What did I ever do to you? Enough, Anna. No, why?
An idea that also came up early, something that I was very passionate about, and that was how can we do a movie differently from the others, and how can we portray a new idea of real love? What is real love? And a lot of times the Disney movie, it's more about the kiss from a prince, right? And I thought, okay, well, we've done that. We've done that quite a few times, so I know there's more out there. And so it was the love. It was the love as two sisters. That was the real love. And yet we guide the audience on a journey of sort of taking you towards that thing of, it'll be the kiss from the prince. It'll be the kiss from the romantic lead. And we were very clear about going down that road, taking the audience down that road, so the ending would be a surprise. Even though it's been there from the beginning, that true love between those two sisters, but no one expected that we would use that as the actual ending. And the audience really, really related and embraced that idea. So it was an idea that it was ready. It was time to tell that story.
Anyone who knows the film obviously knows the song that came out of that film. And for some people, the song transcends everything. When you first heard Let It Go, what did you think?
We had struggled with trying to create that moment for Elsa. We didn't know, once she reveals her powers accidentally and flees the kingdom and runs up to the mountain, we weren't sure how she was feeling.
Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried.
Is she upset? Is she happy? What is she? How is she feeling up there? And we talked to the songwriters about it quite a bit. And then they went away. They went away one weekend and came back with a demo of Let It Go.
Let it go, let it go.
And on Monday, we got this very rough version, and just went, wow. We were floored by the power, the emotion, the sort of anthemic quality to it. And we even said, this is like a teen anthem. We knew that teenagers were going to just love this. We didn't realize the whole world would sort of embrace it, but we knew the power of that song. And we also had to do some rewriting to make that song work, to really make Elsa's journey sort of fit. And then when that song hits, you go, of course, she needed to sing that song. She had to. There was still a debate, was she going to be a villain or not? Or how villainous would she be? And at that point, when Let It Go came in, it's like, no, she's not a villain at all.
How important was the role of your other director, Jennifer Lee, who's touted as the first female director for Disney? She also, I understand, wrote the screenplay.
Right.
How vital was that to making the whole story, the whole film click?
Well, it was extremely vital. She came in about halfway through and started writing, rewriting some things and made the movie. We made the movie ours from that. We had done several screenings before she had come on, but we didn't have her the vision was there, but her sense of entertainment wasn't there yet. And then when she came on, the songwriters came on, so we all started crafting the movie together. But I think the most important thing about our relationship with the male and female, you have a male director and a female director, and I think there's a really good balance of our characters there's a balance to them. It's not, if there might be a moment that I would say with the female characters, an idea that might get too cliche or stereotypical, Jen would call me on it. Jen would say, that's not, that's maybe your version of it, but that's not what a woman would say or feel in that moment. And vice versa with the male characters. So I would say, it's a little, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. So we checked each other all the time about that, and I think it gives the characters a believability, but also we sort of embrace the flaws of these characters. We like flawed characters.
It's a few years on. The film has grossed more than $1 billion. It's a complete phenomenon still, years after it came out. You're currently working on a sequel, which is always a really tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Do you feel the burden of that?
I didn't until right now. Till you mentioned that. Now I don't feel like. Yes, it's a little bit overwhelming, and then you just kind of have to get past it, because we knew there was more story to tell with these characters, and so we're working on it now. We did come up with what we think is a really terrific ending to the sequel. And I think that's important, which is sort of what we had in the first one. We had an interesting ending, and we were always sort of, let's go towards that ending of Anna saving Elsa and that whole thing. So we have an ending now, and that helps us kind of go. We have what we call our true north. We have our little true north, and we're going this way. We have all these other things to work out, lots of things to figure out, but at least we know where we're going. So once we had that, we felt confident that we could kind of, handle the sequel and try not to feel the pressure of all of that.
So you say you have your true north, but you're down south in Australia, and you've been looking at locations like caves and stalactites and stalagmites, and I'm wondering whether Frozen actually goes to a warm continent.
Well, I cannot say that.
But do you gather research from all the places you go to?
I gather information from everything. My family and friends now, they just say, oh, you're probably going to use that, aren't you? Like if they say something dumb or something weird or whatever, they're always, you're going to use that, aren't you? So I kind of, as like I tell people too, I use the phrase "be a sponge," and it's wherever you are, take it all in, take the characters in, take the people you see, the landscape, this, because it can come out in your stories, in your art.
Big summer blowout, half swimming suits, clogs, and a sunbalm of my own.
And there's nothing better than having that kind of grounded, sort of believable place to start, and then you can go with the fantasy from there. So yeah, I take it, whatever I see, whether it's a tree falling in front of my car on my way to Newcastle or what. So
someone wearing a bright yellow coat, perhaps. Who knows?
One never knows.
Chris, just before Frozen was released, you and your family had a tragedy. Your son, Ryder, who I believe was 24 years old, was killed in a horrific accident on the highway.
Right.
And he had been battling cancer before that, but it looked as if he was coming through.
Yes.
So close to the release of probably the biggest thing you'd ever done in your life.
Right.
Do you remember taking the news? Do you remember what that did to you?
Yes, I was in New York, and I wasn't even at home. I was doing publicity, and I just got the phone call from my wife, and she said, "Ryder's gone." And all I thought was, well, he's not at the house right now, and she couldn't find him. And she said, no. And she told me that he's gone. I didn't know how to process at the time, and all I knew is that I wanted to get home. But what happened though was, and he was this great character. I say he is. He's still here for me. He's still here. He's still with me. And he was such an inspiration. So it happened to me is, like you said, this Frozen is starting to take off. The reviews are coming in, and people are really enjoying it, and they're going, wow, this is the next Lion King, blah, blah, blah. And yet, on the other end, I'm dealing with the death of my son, and how do I couldn't make sense of anything. I was just very schizophrenic. And every day was like that. And we had the memorial service for my son. It was a week after the accident. And it was this wonderful service in that he was a musician too. It was more of a concert than it was a thing. We wore Hawaiian shirts. He loved Bali. Bali was one of his favorite places, and little frangipani flowers behind our ears. So it really was a celebration. But the thing that got to me and really made an impact, when there were 1,200 people showed up, and it was overflowing. And it was all these friends of his, I mean, family of ours, but mainly friends of his, and most of them I'd never met before. Friends from the music school, friends from people he just met on the street or at parties. And they all had a story. They all had a story about Ryder and how Ryder had touched them or helped them through a hard time in their lives or something. So he was out there in the world, like doing what every parent hopes your child will do, and that is be a good citizen of the world, right? Whether they get good grades or whatever, you don't really care. In the end, it's just being a good citizen and helping others out, and he was doing that. And so I started to think, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing with cartoons? I'm just making these silly kind of cartoons, and that's what I do 24/7. Really questioning what my life was all about. And then Frozen came out. And then the music, all these YouTubes are coming out, and there's kids singing and mothers singing and fathers singing with their kids. And then I'm getting stories from parents with autistic kids, and they're relating to Olaf, and Olaf in the movie, they're sitting still for the movie. One of the first times they've ever sat still and watched something.
Oh, look at him trying to kiss my nose. I like you too.
And then there was
Elsa
one of the ones that made the hugest impact, largest impact on me was this woman. We did a thing on Reddit, and Reddit is the Ask Me Anything online. And we were all together, Kristen, Bobby, Jen, and Peter, the producer, and myself. And this woman writes in, a young woman, and she says, I don't have a question, I just have a statement. And she said that I was in a very, very dark place in my life, and I was ready to take my own life. And then I went and saw Frozen. And I connected and related to Elsa's journey so much so, and how she got through it. She goes, that I'm still here. And she just wanted to thank us that she's still here. Of course, we're just overwhelmed with emotion at the time, but there were more and more of those stories that I would get, and I realized, okay, what we do at Disney, it is very important. We look at it's entertainment, but giving people, letting them laugh, cry, look at themselves, look at others, making them feel, but basically giving them hope. And that's what I felt that was sort of my mission here on Earth, or it's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing the movies that I'm doing, and why I take it I take it very seriously what I do and the messages that we portray. So it was a huge moment for me, and I take that now as I go on with my career. I mean, Ryder's always with me, and I'm always thinking of him, and he's always saying, you know, go Dad, do it. You know, he handed the torch to me to keep going with what he was doing in his life.
So in a sense, what happened to him came together with the phenomenon that was Frozen. Do you still have moments where it's difficult for you to feel grounded?
No, I don't look at him as gone, you know? So it's just like he's still here. So he kind of grounds me. There are times that, and you know, I don't know if you have them here in this country, but we have a company called, it's Ryder Trucks, and it's spelled exactly like his name. So anytime, you know, I'm doubting something or something, I'll see a Ryder truck go by. And it's just a little message from Ryder to say, yeah, I'm still here. And my siblings and people get it all the time too. So I really, I always feel grounded, and it really is because I know and I feel that he's still with me.
Chris Buck, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for speaking with me on 1+1.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you.
1+1 is available on iView. You can browse the archive or contact us through the website. Stay in touch and leave comments via Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter. I look forward to your company next time. From me, goodbye.
The cold never bothered me anyway.